Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Unity Orlando. Our opening statement this morning is, God is my help in every need, and I am provided for abundantly. Let's all affirm that together. God is my help in every need, and I am provided for abundantly. All right, let's all close our eyes, take a nice deep breath in. Let's affirm that together in the silence. And so it is. And now if you'd like to stand, we'll sing our joy song this morning. It is called Within Me. Within me, I feel a healing begin. Within me, I feel a healing again. And I know to let the Spirit flow. And I know it doesn't have to hurt to grow. Sometimes the darkest night feels like an endless fight. If I can let it go, let Spirit ebb and flow. Within me, I feel a loving begin. Within me, I feel a healing again. And I know to let the Spirit flow. And I know it doesn't have to hurt to grow. And I know sometimes the darkest night feels like an endless fight. If I can let it go, let Spirit ebb and flow. Within me, I feel a healing begin. Within me, I feel a healing again. And I know to let the Spirit flow. And I know it doesn't have to hurt to grow. And I know it doesn't have to hurt to grow. It doesn't have to hurt to grow. Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning, Unity Orlando. How is everybody today? It's good to see your beautiful faces in person, in real life, and then online. Welcome, everyone. I'm Susan Francis. I'm your platform speaker today. Do we have any visitors for the first time? All family, welcome. Just a reminder, Meyer Hall is open after service, so join us if you'd like. Also, a reminder, the lesson notes and diagrams for today's lesson are on the unityorlando.org website on the services page. These are downloadable and printable. And also, last week's service is up on our YouTube and on our website. There was some glitches, so it's up there now. This week, the office will be closed on Tuesday, but open on Wednesday from 10 to 3 o'clock. Also, the food drive continues. Non-perishable food items, bring them in for donation either Sunday morning or normally on Tuesday, but you can do it Wednesday this week. Curtis Cokes is the coordinator. If you know someone who needs food or need food yourself, please let us know. Midweek prayer and meditation with Reverend Ronnie and myself is on Facebook the first and third Wednesday at 4:30. So it will be this Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Okay, thank you. All of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. Sometimes there's glitches, but it will be there usually at 4:30. If not, you can go back and visit it, and it's also linked onto our website. Navigating A Course in Miracles with Reverend Ronnie and Paul Kenney meet on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. If you're interested in attending, please email Ronnie. She will send you a link. Her email address is on the website. And last is the Unity Men's Group meets every Wednesday at 4 p.m. at Starbucks on the corner of 436 and Howell Branch. And also they meet on the third Sunday of each month in the courtyard classroom, which is out here. Reverend Ronnie and Paul's lesson this morning is Why Me? But before I turn it over to Brian, I have a little story to tell you. When was it? A couple of months ago, we had a little squirrel encounter here. Remember? We had some squirrel problems that literally blew out the power and the transformer and everything. So I came across this story about this Presbyterian church. They called a meeting to decide what to do about their squirrel infestation. After much prayer and consideration, they concluded that the squirrels were predestined to be there and they should not interfere with God's divine will. But at the Baptist church, the squirrels had taken an interest in the baptistry. The deacons met and decided to put a water slide in and let the squirrels drown themselves. The squirrels liked the slide and unfortunately knew instinctively how to swim. So they had twice as many squirrels showing up the next week. And the Lutheran church decided that they were not in a position to harm God's creatures, so they humanely trapped the squirrels and set them free near the Baptist church. 2 weeks later, the squirrels were back when the Baptists took down the water slide. The Episcopalians tried a much more unique path by setting out pans of whiskey around their church in an effort to kill the squirrels with alcohol poisoning. They sadly learned how much damage a band of drunk squirrels can do. And then the Catholic Church came up with a more creative strategy. They baptized all the squirrels and made them members of the church. Now they only see them at Christmas and Easter. And at last, not much was heard from the Jewish synagogue. They took the first squirrel and circumcised him. They haven't seen a squirrel since. And now back over to Brian.
All right, that'll work. Something that Reverend Ronnie said last week about a still small voice got my creative juices going. And so I wrote this song this week called Still Small Voice. Whispering to me within the silence, let it be, lifting a veil so I can see, let it go and set it free. As we go round and round the sun, I hear the calling from the one. I hear it echoing through me, and this whisper set me free. And now the still small voice, it helps me make a choice as life goes on and on whispering to me. Within the silence through the trees, lifting a veil so I can see. Let it go, set it free. And now the still small voice, it helps me make a choice as life goes on and on and on and on. Now the still small voice, it drowns out all the noise. It keeps me going on and on and on and on and on.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
That was really nice. I love that song. It's always applicable. Always, always. Well, welcome, everybody. Good morning. It's good to see everybody.
There's two of us up here today.
Yeah, you're in trouble. We're trying really hard to keep the time down, believe me. So when I chose this topic, why me, it was some months ago. It was before Paul was going to talk, to help me give the talk, and I really didn't know what I was going to say. When we pick out our talk titles, Bob and I pick them out months in advance. So Spirit picks them out, and then of course the week, at least 1 week before every talk, we get all of the information we could possibly need to fill up our talk title because we chose it. But anyway, when I started looking at it, what am I going to say? What are we possibly going to say about this? It's kind of negative and victim-y, but it actually reminds me of the Bible and the way the Bible's written with the Old Testament and then switching into the New Testament. The Old Testament has a lot of anger and killing and murder and rape and all kinds of bad stuff going on with some good stuff coming along. And then when Jesus shows up in the New Testament, then he talks about love and how we can make things work in a different way. It's like the evolution of our own spirit through the beginning of our lives when we're pretty much ego-centered and doing things to benefit ourselves, and as we move along, we get that yearning for more in our lives, and as we grow spiritually, we follow closer in Jesus' footsteps, and we actually change our relationship with people. And it's the story of humankind as we grow and realize that the power of our own thoughts and words as we move through life.
Okay. So we can put up that first diagram, Linda. I'm the diagram guy, so I put some diagrams together for you. The first one is really about what we transmit to the universe. We're always transmitting, and sometimes it's a stronger transmission than others. So when we think thoughts, there's a certain amount of power in those as they go out. And when we add words to those thoughts, that power cranks up a little bit, which is the reason that second arrow is a little bit bigger. And when we add emotion to it, it really cranks up. So you can see that arrow with thoughts, words, and emotions is pretty significant. The universe is a big response mechanism, so it responds to what we're sending out. It doesn't necessarily send the same kind of event we're thinking about or the same kind of experience, but it sends something that has the same kind of feeling with it. So there may be something else that comes back, but it's going to feel very similar, and it's going to feel about the same intensity and sometimes maybe a little bit more. So we always want to be cautious of what we're sending out.
So a very common, well-known unity quote is, "Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind." And we know that that demonstrates that consistently what we think about, but most importantly, like Paul even said, when we add emotions to it, strong emotions like, worry or fear or excitement and joy, that brings about what Paul talks about, where the universe responds back to us with the same intensity. So as our thinking changes and our expectations start to change, our circumstances will change with the same type of energy. So I have a quote from Charles Fillmore from The Revealing Word. For those of you who may not know, I'm assuming most of you do, Charles and his wife Myrtle were the co-founders of Unity. And in The Revealing Word, which is all written by Charles, he says, "The thinking faculty in you makes you a free agent because it is your creative center. In and through this one power, you establish your consciousness. You build your world." And I don't think most of us get how powerful beings we really are. We're not here just to follow the rules of Jesus, but to follow the Spirit. And he said, all the things that I've done and more, you will do as well. So in Matthew 5:37, Jesus also says, "But let your words be yes, yes, and no, no, for anything which adds to these are deception." Now, obviously, we say more than yes, yes, and no, no. But as humans, we like to be dramatic. And when something bad happens to us, we're in there retelling the story over and over and over again because it makes you feel powerful in a backward type of way because you're not fixing anything. So we have to really be cautious with our emotions and what we speak from and how often we get so excited in a negative way, because that's calling more to you that can be difficult and negative. It's going to match your intensity.
So I have a story, real life story. About 9 or 10 years ago, Ronnie and I had never been to Paris, so we took a trip to Paris. We were connecting through Atlanta, built in about 3 hours a time because the international terminal in Atlanta is a little ways from the regular ones. So off we go. And for one reason or another, the flight out of Orlando was delayed and delayed. Anybody been there? Delayed and delayed again. And actually, there wasn't even a plane. An hour after our takeoff time, there wasn't even a plane at the gate. Anyway, the plane finally showed up, and they got the people off, and then finally, that ate up about 2 hours of time, maybe a little more. We get to Atlanta's not that far in an airplane. Actually, flight time is only about 40 minutes. But I notice as we get closer to it, all of a sudden we're circling. So we're in a holding pattern for air traffic control or for weather, not really sure why, but we're going around and going around. The clock is ticking, the clock is ticking. By the time we land and get off the plane, we've got 15 minutes to get from there to the international gate. And you've all seen movies of people running through the airports. Well, that was us. We were running through the airport as fast as we could go. And we actually got to that gate exactly at the departure time. But as we approached, there was nobody there but the gate attendant. The doors were closed. The plane was at the gate. They said,
We could wave to the captain.
"Sorry, you missed it." And I said, "But it's right there. All you have to do is open the door and let us on." And there's a little thing in your tickets that says, if you don't get here at least 15 minutes before your departure time, all bets are off. They wouldn't open it. They wouldn't let us on. I got pretty ginned up. I haven't told many people this story because it's a little embarrassing. I got pretty ginned up, and I had some words for the attendant. And he actually was incredibly polite and apparently had encountered people in the state that I was in before. And he was not going to let us on the plane. And I finally looked at him, I said, you gave our seats away, didn't you? And he had a look on his face like, you bet. So he walks us down a ways to another place where we're going to have to rebook. And all the way down, I'm telling him all about how unhappy I am. And I really did have quite a bit of emotion in it. The two emotions were anger and frustration. Those were the two emotions. Anyway, we finally got booked on another flight a few hours later. I asked him if our bags would make it, no problem. We got to Paris, no bags. They actually had Ronnie's. We finally met with someone and they said, oh, we have her bag, but it's in a secure area and we never take them out. We deliver them to your hotel. So I said, when would that be? Oh, this afternoon. How about my bag? We have no idea. It turns out mine went to a few airports in the US before it finally made it across the Atlantic. So that was frustration number 2. And then we got the bags 3 days later. We finally got them about halfway through the trip. So we're kind of wearing the clothes we came in, the shoes we came in, you know how that goes. And then I got pickpocketed on the subway, which was the worst part. And the crazy thing about it is that looking back on that, I'm convinced that my initial reaction in the beginning with the missed flight precipitated the bags being somewhere for 3 days and then losing my wallet, because the feelings were the same, anger and frustration. So it was a big lesson for me. We actually did have a pretty good trip in spite of all that, but that's kind of the way it went. Okay, let's pop up diagram 2. Another thing that can happen other than universe feeding back to us is what I call soul agenda or soul assignment. Bob referred to this a few months ago in one of his talks. I think he used the word soul assignment. They've got physical birth on the left and physical death on the right. And as we move along, some things come up that are assignments from our soul. It's kind of hard to know if it is one or not. If it's a challenge, we still have to meet it and we still have to deal with it. An example of a soul assignment was 30 years ago. Ronnie and I did not know each other. Now, we've been married for 20 years, but 30 years ago, we didn't know each other. And we happened to be in the same office complex with a group. We were doing call-outs for a personal growth course that we had both taken, but we didn't take together. She walked past me, and it was like this window opened, and the feeling that I had was very familiar, like I knew her, but I didn't know her. And I thought afterwards, I said, well, maybe it was a physical attraction because she is kind of cute. and that might have been part of it, but it was deeper than that. I guess the best way I can describe it is when I was in the Navy and we'd come back from deployments, my longest was 8.5 months. The feeling you have as you meet your family again and you see your children and you see your spouse again, it's a very deep connection type feeling. And that's what I experienced as she walked past me. We never spoke that night. We didn't even catch eyes. And then that window closed. And it opened again the first time I kissed her, which was 10 years later.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So because that can be pretty powerful and we don't always know what our soul assignments, and what that means is we, in between lives, and Paul will talk a little bit about it with this other book, may get to plan certain things that occur. Not like exactly everything, but the overall feeling of a situation that happens to you. Well, this book here is called The Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh, and he's the one who wrote the Conversations with God, 3 or 4 books. This is a children's book, but we have used it for our adult classes. We use it in our Course in Miracles class a couple times already. And in this book, it's about between lives, we decide what we want to learn. And this one little angel wants to learn about forgiveness. So it talks about what God talked to them about and how that's going to work out. It's not a quick read for kids. It's quite extensive, and it's very powerful for adults. So I would encourage you to get that and read about it, because it's awesome.
We've read that, Little Soul in the Sun, at our Wednesday Course in Miracles Zoom class, and we did it a few months ago, and the group said, do it again. We want to hear that story again. So it's about these two souls who plan out some things. The other book we want to bring to your attention is called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. It's a fascinating book if you're interested in that kind of thing, of any pre-life planning or what happens in between. He's a hypnotherapist, and he was working with people doing past life regression work when he caught one of his clients in between death and birth. And they were telling him all of this, what was going on, and he was fascinated by that. Michael Newton, up to that point in his life, was not really a spiritual person. So he wasn't, looking for that kind of a thing, but he was fascinated by this, and so he started to focus in that area with his clients, and he would work with them in between. And there's a lot of stories in this book, and it's quite fascinating. So if that's something you're interested in, and it does also talk about the transition process in a lot of ways, because the people that he's working with have gone through that process a number of times, and they talk about that. So if that's something, it's a very, very good book.
We had taught this class a couple years ago, and it's very fascinating. And one of the things that I guess I would say encouraged me after reading the book and teaching the book is a number of people in their in-between lives stage talk about how difficult life on earth is. And it was like, whew, I'm not the only one that sometimes thinks this is really, really tough stuff.
So if you feel like you're going through the ringer, you're not alone in that process.
Yes.
Okay, so diagram 3, the random chaos of life on earth. I just kind of made this up because it feels like that to me sometimes. You're moving along, you're going through your life, and things just pop up. This challenge and this challenge, and you kind of have to walk this, what feels like sometimes a little bit of a minefield to get your way through there. Now, some of these could very well be universal feedback. Some of them could be soul agenda, and some of them, in my way of thinking, I just happened to be there, and there it was, type of thing. So you can think about that however you want. Many people say, no, there's no randomness to it. It's all kind of orchestrated in some way, and I kind of believe that, and I kind of believe that some things just tend to pop up.
Well, and the way Charles Fillmore talks about this randomness is he talks about race consciousness in the world, the human race consciousness, where we've been living here for however many years. So many beliefs and thoughts and ideas get passed down and then change. Playing the game telephone as a kid where you tell the next person what's going to happen, and it gets passed around to 20 people, and by the time it comes out, it's nothing like the original one. Well, that's kind of like what happens in our world with all the different people in their own mindset. Some have no idea of any spirituality, and they're just surviving, and others are in different places. But because of this, there's a lot of things that happen that may seem random or may not seem random. But the point I'm trying to make, when I started with why me, when things happen, why me? There's always something that we can learn about ourselves in every situation. So if you find yourself knocking your head up against a wall, step back a minute and say, what can I learn about me? Many people say, oh, I've learned a lot. That guy's a real jerk. Well, that's not the kind of learning I'm talking about, because they showed up in our lives for whatever reason, whether it's random or something that we are predisposed to learn. So once you can handle your emotions, ask, what can I learn about me? What can I change? And then once you might get some ideas of what happened, and you might say, wow, I did a dumb thing then it's important to take the energy out of this. And when we'll talk about that in a minute, about how to do that and move forward, letting the negative part go. So many times we hang on to guilt about what we did or we didn't do. Guilt is useless for us in our spiritual growth. I was told once, guilt is the price that we pay for something so that we can do it again. It doesn't have any good power in our lives. So as we do grow in spirituality, we become more like the Master Jesus. So in 2011, 11 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it threw me for a loop. And the first thing I said to Paul was, if I create my own reality, then how did I create this? Well, his brilliant answer was, that's probably not a really good question to ask right now. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Because things show up. You know, we can spend a lifetime trying to figure out why, which won't change anything. But so what I did, because I do believe that what we do and think and say affects things. We don't necessarily create the exact thing, but it affects things, as we've been talking about. So what I did is I said to God, okay, if there's something that I did in the past that led to this diagnosis, let me know. I'm not going to dig for it. I'm going to move forward and handle what I have to handle, but let me know. So within a very short time, I remembered something. And I had been married before for quite a long time, and the man I was married to smoked quite heavily in the house all the time. And we had kids that had asthma, and you know, from years, literally years of asking, talking to him about it, him promising he'd quit, to me begging and harassing him, to screaming. This one particular time when I was just over it, when he just kind of ignored me about the smoking, I said to him with as much emotion as I could say, which I won't do right now, you're the one that smokes, and I'm the one that's going to get cancer. Wow. When I recognized that, when that was shown to me, it's like, whoa. Now, does that mean I created it specifically? No, but I definitely played a part in that becoming part of my lifestyle. So what I did is, at that point, as soon as I realized what I had done, I pulled the energy back from that statement. That may sound funny. It had been many years ago, but I still had a lot of energy about it when I realized it. So I pulled my energy back from it and I let it go. I pushed it away. I forgave myself for my outburst, for being so angry. I forgave him, and I literally let it go, because guilt, like I said before, is worthless in making changes, permanent changes in our lives. And this is how we grow spiritually. When we figure out, or when something comes to us as to why something occurred, then handle it, take the energy out of it, do forgiveness work, do whatever needs to be done, and let it go. It's just so important. And as we do this each time, our heart changes. We are literally becoming more spiritual. As we let these things go, we become happier, less burdened, less upset, and much more peaceful as we realize that the tough things in our lives that occur to us, whether we helped manufacture them or not, can be changed as we are willing to make changes in our lives too.
So there's a positive side to this. We've been talking about some of the negative stuff, except when that window opened up and I had that recognition of someone who I'd never met. And as Ronnie and I put this talk together, we called it, "Why Not Me?" when good stuff happens. Sometimes there's a tendency when good things happen to us to think we're not deserving, or to think, that probably ought to be happening to other people than me. And so we want to talk about that a little bit to make sure that we're in a place to receive God's goodness when it shows up in front of us.
And to know that we deserve it. So I have another story, and it's also about my ex-husband, but he's already passed away, and so he's forgiven me all the stories I'm telling.
Yeah, she doesn't have any of those stories about me.
No.
Yeah, somebody said yet.
So towards the end of our marriage, he had lost his job. He didn't look for a job. He wasn't working, so I was the only one bringing in money. Things were tight. He had twisted my arm over a period of months to cash in the IRA that I had from my job. It wasn't a big one, but it was something. And so I did. I caved and I gave it in, and nothing changed. He had promised to work, but he didn't. So finally the time came for divorce, and I said, he got a job and I left. But I was still really angry about this money thing, because even though it was my fault, because I gave in, I was mad. So I said to him, I don't know what your parents have financially. We've been married a long time, but I don't know their business. I said, but I put in our divorce decree, if your parents die and you get an inheritance, you have to pay me that money back. Now, the amount of the money, I had gone to our money guy, and I said, tell me how much in real money today that would be worth if we hadn't cashed it in those years ago. And he gave me a figure. He figured it up, and he gave me a figure. And I said, that's what I want you to give me. He said, fine. He didn't care. Fine. So this was also the time of my life when I first found Unity here. I was taking classes to become a licensed Unity teacher. I was also taking the 4T Prosperity class, which is a lot about forgiveness and figuring out what's behind all this stuff. So as I'm learning about forgiveness, it's like, okay, I'm giving it up. I forgave him. I let him go. I went to him and I said, I'm not going to spend the money to change our divorce decree, but I give you my word, if something happens, I will not ask for that money back. And he said, okay, the same okay he gave me before. But what's interesting is after I left, I was able to buy a condo, and then within a short while, we got together. So we got married, and my daughter lived there, and then when it was time to sell that house, which was only like 3 or 4 years later, the amount of money that I made, it was kind of like this time that our economy's in now, where everything was inflated for homes. The exact amount of money that IRA was worth is the amount of money I made on that house in like 3 years. And I know for a fact that would not have happened had I not forgiven him, had I not let it go and just say blessings. And that's exactly what happened. So I was quite grateful for that.
Another thing that happened between us after we got together, I was really close with my first wife, and we had a really good relationship. And as Ronnie and I got together, we became very close. And we're driving down the road one day. It seems like I made my most profound statements to her when I was driving the car. And I said, when I was with, my first wife's name was Debbie. When I was with Debbie, she was number one. You're number one now. And she gave me the trout look, the look where you're looking at the face of a fish in the jaws like that. People at home can see that. Yeah.
I just did it.
And then
I was like stunned, because being number two after Debbie was so much better than I was before. It was like, whoopee. And then he said, I'm number one. I almost couldn't believe it, except that I know Paul well enough. It was amazing, and it felt, it was one of those moments when I had to say to myself, why not me? Because I wanted to run. Because it's like, I can't be number one. Because I knew their family.
The car was moving too fast. She couldn't get out.
I couldn't jump. No, but I mean, it's just important to realize that you've got moments in your life that occur. Then we can say, why me? Because a lot of stuff happens. But don't forget to say, why not me? God loves me. I am deserving. And then the ego mind goes, yeah, but what about this and this and this and this? And that, you just have to let that go, because God, we are children of God, and we deserve it. And this is, my favorite quote about this is from Luke 12:32. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The Father's good pleasure to give. We all deserve it, no matter what we've been through, no matter what we may have done or thought we did or whatever. We deserve it. And the only thing that holds it back from us is our unwillingness to accept it and to think that we're not good enough or whatever. So it's something to really ponder and take to mind.
So no matter where the challenges come from, whether they're coming from universal feedback or they're coming from a soul assignment or they're coming from some kind of randomness, wherever they come from, it's really important for us. We want to live our lives centered in our spiritual practices. Some people use the term prayed up. We want to be prayed up so that when these things come at us, we're in a position to handle them. And the Bible quote that best talks about that is Matthew 7:24-25. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like the wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. So we want to have that strength, spiritual rock within us so that we're ready to handle anything that comes our way. Okay, it's time for meditation. So let's take a moment, close our eyes, relax into the space where we're sitting. And let's imagine for a moment that we are in fact founded, strengthened by the rock of our spiritual convictions. For Jesus has told us we are Christ's beings along with him. And so our spirits are strong and ready. And we can take comfort in that fact. So let's relax into that space of peace, of calm, of serenity, and know that we are cared for and loved by God intensely. And let us remember that our spirits are eternal, have always been, will always be, can never be harmed, can never die. And we take comfort in knowing that. And it brings us a deep sense of peace.
And so from this place, I want you to remember there is one presence and one power in the universe, God, the good, omnipotent. So we let those words sink into our very being. And we keep that attention focused on the inner light that is within us. That inner light that is God living in us, as us, through us, all the time. We just need to remember. And if we listen very carefully, we can hear the words of the Father. You are my beloved, in whom I am well pleased. You are my beloved, in whom I am well pleased. Let those words sink into your heart. And if you have anything that's pushing against it, set it aside, for now at least. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. And then he said, and you are the light of the world. Do not put your knowledge under a cover. Uncover that wisdom. Uncover that knowledge. Uncover who you are at the depth of your being. Know that you are never alone, that God is always with us. Jesus told us before he left, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. And he says, if you need my hand, reach out and I will take your hand. So there's no reason for us to ever feel alone. So as we think back to the prodigal son that left home, squandered everything, and then eventually turned back to come back to his father. This was all in his mind. And we too can turn back any time we want. No matter what may have gone down already, no matter what we may have done or not done, we turn back around. Let your light shine. Let your light shine. And if you think you don't have a light, oh, you do. Oh, you do. Especially when we let go of so much of the outer stuff, things that we can enjoy and have and use all the time. But if we don't make them number one, and we use our hearts to grow spiritually, to become more like Jesus was teaching us. He came here to teach us how to live, what to do and what to say and how to be. Yes, we are one with the Father. We are one with Jesus. And we are one with each other. There's a connection that goes deep. And we may not recognize it at first. We may not feel it at first. But as we deal with others and we look beyond the outer, look into their eyes, even for a second, and get a glimpse of their soul, and you realize you are one with them. So as we bring ourselves back to this room and this time and this space, if the words of sorrow come up in your mind, why me? Switch it to why not me? What can I learn and how can I grow and be more godlike? Rest in my love are the words that God has left us. Rest in my love. And so with grateful, grateful hearts, we say thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you. Amen.
There it is.
Will the usher come forward to take our offertory now and offering? And those of you at home, you probably know, but you can go to the website on unityorlando.org after service. You can leave us a donation through PayPal or credit card, or mail us a check, or call Linda for regular payments. Those of us here, if we take our offering in our hands and we say together the blessing that's on the screen behind me. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. Thank you, God. Amen.
Thank you.
You're just like me sometimes, acting on the dream inside, stirring up the thoughts that hide my shiny soul. When good thoughts cross my mind, my heart gets warm inside, and when our dreams collide, making us whole. Sweet Spirit, we are one. Shown us more to come. This life in love is long. From since the beginning of time, I felt you on my mind, never minding trying to hide my shiny soul. Now I feel peace inside, to humankind. All the love that's left behind is making us whole. Sweet Spirit, we are one. Even though we've only begun, this life has shown us more to come. This life in love, this life in love. Sweet Spirit, we are one. Even though we've only show us more to come. This life in love, this life in love. This life has shown us more to come. This life in love, this life in love. Sweet Spirit, we are one. Even though we've only begun, this life has shown us more to come. This life in love, this life in love. This life in love, this life in love. Life in love.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Great job. Brian,
pretty
John,
cool.
Carolyn, and Susan.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you so much. And, 4 out of, normally we have 7 or 8. You guys are awesome. awesome. Just saying, just saying, just saying. Thank you so much. What's that? Yeah. Okay. Have a good week. Be safe. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your support financially, presence, being here and at home. We can't see you at home, but we can feel you. So thank you for being here with us. Next Sunday, Reverend Bob's coming back. His talk title will be My Highest Good, and we'll celebrate his birthday then too. Just a reminder, Meyer Hall is open after the service and then again until 1. So if you will, let's all stand and we'll say together the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Have a wonderful week. Thank you. And now we get